Prepare to be moved by a story of unimaginable pain, deep regret, and ultimately, the most profound act of love a father could show. Joseph's journey begins in betrayal, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold for silver, forgotten in a prison cell. Yet through every wound, God was shaping a story of redemption. What man meant for evil, God turned for good. Joseph's rise from slave to ruler, from outcast to deliverer, is a powerful testament to resilience, forgiveness, and the unbreakable bond of family. This is more than a story of survival. It is the story of transformation, a confession of pain, a declaration of hope, and it just might inspire your own. My name is Joseph. I was betrayed by my own blood, sold as a slave, left to rot in prison, but the Lord never abandoned me. He lifted me from the pit to the palace, not for my glory, but to save the very brothers who once destroyed me. This is my confession.
Welcome to Testament Unspoken, where we bring biblical stories to life through the eyes of those who lived them. Each episode offers a raw, first-person perspective on some of the most powerful figures in Scripture, told with emotion, honesty, and depth. Please subscribe for more stories like this.
My name is Joseph. I was a dreamer. From my youth, visions came to me, of sheaves bowing, of stars bending low. Some called me favored, for my father's love wrapped me in a robe of many colors. But others, my own brothers, called me cursed. Their eyes burned with hatred, their hearts with envy. I want to confess to you, the path from the pit to the palace was not lined with glory. It was carved with betrayal, slavery, and tears. I was stripped of my robe and cast into darkness by those who shared my blood. I was sold for silver, as though my life was nothing more than a coin to be traded. I was chained, dragged to a foreign land, bought and sold like cattle. I tasted honor in Potiphar's house, but even that was stolen. Lies wrapped me in shame, and I was cast into a dungeon. In that pit of stone I was forgotten. Days bled into years. My voice cried out for help, but men forgot me. Yet, even there, God did not. His presence followed me into the shadows, into the chains, into the silence. And when Pharaoh dreamed dreams no one could understand, the Lord lifted me out of prison and set me before the throne of Egypt. In one moment, I was broken and bound. In the next, I was raised up to rule a kingdom not my own. But let me tell you the truth. I was broken before I was lifted. I was humbled before I was honored. I was forgotten by men before I was remembered by God. And through it all, I learned this. What man means for evil, God means for good. You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as they are today. Genesis 50:20. My story is not about my strength. It is about His providence. It is about a God who weaves betrayal into redemption, pain into purpose, and slavery into salvation. I was a dreamer. But the greater dream was not mine. It was His. I was the beloved son of Jacob. My father's eyes lingered on me longer than the rest. I was the son of his old age, the child of Rachel, his most cherished wife. He clothed me with a robe of many colors, a gift not only of fabric, but of love. Its threads shimmered in the sun, every shade a reminder that I was chosen, favored. But to my brothers, each color burned like fire. Every time I walked into the fields wearing that robe, I could feel their eyes pierce me, whispers behind me, silence when I drew near. They could not bear the sight of me wrapped in what they lacked, a father's delight. Then came the dreams. One night I saw us in the fields, binding sheaves of grain. My sheaf rose upright, and their sheaves gathered around it and bowed down. I told them, not to boast, but to share the wonder. They looked at me with scorn. Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us? Their hatred deepened. Genesis 37:8. Another night I dreamed again. This time the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down before me. Even my father rebuked me. Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? Genesis 37:10. But he kept the matter in mind. I was young. I did not understand the weight of what I spoke. To me, they were visions of mystery, glimpses of a future I could not grasp. To them, they were arrogance, proof that I thought myself greater. I want to confess. I never asked for favor. I never asked for dreams. Yet they marked me, set me apart, and made me hated. My brothers saw a robe. They saw pride. They saw threat. But what they did not see was the hand of God, already writing a story none of us could imagine. One day my father called me. He said, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word." Genesis 37:14. I set out from Hebron, wearing the robe of many colors he had given me, the robe that clung to me like both a blessing and a curse. I wandered in the fields until a man told me they had gone toward Dothan. And when my brothers saw me from a distance, their eyes narrowed. I thought perhaps they would greet me. But instead, hatred rose in their voices. "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams." Genesis 37:19-20. I did not hear those words then, but I saw it in their eyes when they seized me. Reuben's voice rose in protest. "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him." Genesis 37:22. They tore the robe from my body, the robe my father had given me, the symbol of his love. Stripped, humiliated, I was thrown into the pit. The walls of dry earth closed around me. My voice cracked as I pleaded, "Brothers, please, do not do this. Have mercy." But their ears were deaf. I saw their silhouettes above me, laughing, eating bread as I wept below. Then I heard Judah's voice. "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites." Genesis 37:26-27. The others agreed. They pulled me from the pit, not to save me, but to sell me. Their hands bound me with ropes, their faces hard, unmoved by my tears. The traders weighed silver into their palms. 20 shekels, the price of a slave. And so I was dragged away, dust rising at my feet, chains cutting my wrists. I looked back one last time, hoping for mercy in their eyes, but all I saw was their laughter echoing in the wind. That day I learned, betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from those you love. Their hatred sold me, their envy chained me, but God's hand had not left me. When I was dragged in chains into Egypt, I thought my life was over, but the Lord had not abandoned me. I was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. His house was large, his servants many, and his power great. I was a slave, yet the hand of the Lord was with me. Everything I touched prospered. Soon Potiphar saw it and placed me over his house, over fields and servants, over all he owned. From the lowest place I was lifted again. But favor has a price, and with it came a test that would scar my life forever. Potiphar's wife set her eyes upon me. Day after day she spoke soft words, seductive promises. She said, "Lie with me." But I refused. Again and again I said, "Behold, because of me, my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Genesis 39:8-9. Still, she pressed me. Her words like chains, relentless, whispering in the corners of my days. And then came the moment that would change everything. The house was empty, no servants nearby. She seized me by my garment and demanded, "Lie with me." I wrenched myself free, but my robe tore in her hands as I fled into the open air. For righteousness, I was stripped once again. Her voice rose in anger, echoing through the halls. She cried out to the men of the house, twisting the truth into a lie. "See, he has brought among us a Hebrew to laugh at us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice." Genesis 39:14. When Potiphar returned, she held up my garment as proof. Her eyes were fire, her voice poison. And he believed her. I was seized, bound again, dragged to the place of darkness, the prison, from robe to rags, from favor to chains. Again I was betrayed, this time not by brothers but by lies. Yet even in the dungeon, the Lord was with me. When men stripped me, God clothed me with his presence. When men cast me down, his hand still lifted me up. I want to confess, in that moment, it seemed like obedience only brought pain. I fled sin, and still I was punished. But better a dungeon with God than a palace with compromise. The dungeon was cold, the air heavy with despair. Shackles clinked in the darkness. Yet even there, the Lord was with me. The keeper of the prison noticed. Soon I was placed in charge of the prisoners themselves. Once more, though stripped of freedom, I was entrusted with responsibility. Still, I wrestled with questions in the silence. Why had I been faithful only to be betrayed again? Why had my obedience led me here? But though I doubted, I still clung to him. One morning, 2 new prisoners were placed in my care, Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker. Their faces were troubled, their spirits crushed. I asked them, "Why are your faces downcast today?" Genesis 47. They answered, "We have had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." I said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please, tell them to me." Genesis 48. The cupbearer spoke first. "In my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in his hand." Genesis 49-11. The Lord gave me the meaning. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. Genesis 40:12-13. Then I pleaded with him, desperation in my voice. "Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me the kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, so that I might get out of this house." Genesis 40:14. The baker then told his dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked food for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating it out of the basket on my head. Genesis 40:16-17. Again, the Lord revealed, "The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days Pharaoh will lift up your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you." Genesis 40:18-19. It happened just as God had shown me. The cupbearer was restored, the baker was hanged. But the cupbearer forgot me. Days turned to weeks, weeks to months, months to years. His promise faded into silence, and I remained, forgotten in the shadows, yet not forgotten by God. I want to confess, those years in prison were some of my hardest, not because of chains, but because of waiting. Waiting on men who failed me, waiting on a God I could not see. But it was in that waiting that my faith was tested, and it was in that waiting that my story was being written. A story far greater than my pain. 2 years passed after the cupbearer's release. 2 years of silence. 2 years of waiting. 2 years of wondering if God had forgotten me in the shadows. Then Pharaoh dreamed. He stood by the Nile, and 7 fat cows came up out of the river, sleek and full, and they grazed in the reed grass. Behind them came 7 other cows, thin, gaunt, devouring the fat ones, yet still as empty as before. Genesis 41:1-4. He awoke, troubled, and dreamed again. 7 ears of grain, plump and good, grew on one stalk. Then 7 thin ears, scorched by the east wind, swallowed up the full ones. Genesis 41:5-7. Pharaoh called all the magicians and wise men of Egypt, but none could interpret. His spirit was restless. His court trembled. And then, at last, the cupbearer remembered. He said, "I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants, you put me in custody with the baker. There we dreamed on the same night, and a young Hebrew was with us. And as he interpreted to us, so it came to pass." Genesis 41:9-13. Pharaoh summoned me. In a moment I was hurried from the dungeon. They shaved me, clothed me in fine linen, and led me into the throne room of Egypt. There I stood, trembling before Pharaoh, the most powerful man on earth. He said, "I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it." I answered, my voice steady, but my heart trembling, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer." Genesis 41:16. The room fell silent. Pharaoh's eyes fixed on me. His magicians stared. His court held its breath. And as he told me his dreams, the Lord opened my mind. I saw it clearly. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. I said to Pharaoh, "God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten. The famine will consume the land." Genesis 41:28-30. Then I gave counsel, "Let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt, to store up grain during the 7 plentiful years, so that the land may not perish through the famine." Genesis 41:33-36. Pharaoh turned to his servants and said, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" And then he said to me, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." Genesis 41:39-40. That day Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on mine. He clothed me in garments of fine linen, hung a gold chain around my neck, and set me in a chariot as second only to him in all the land of Egypt, from dungeon to destiny in a single day, from forgotten prisoner to ruler of nations. I want to confess, I did not rise by my wisdom, nor by my strength. I rose because the God who had been with me in the pit and in the prison was with me still in the palace, and his timing was perfect. The famine spread across the lands just as God had shown me. 7 years of plenty passed, and the storehouses overflowed. But then came the lean years. The fields gave no grain. The earth was dry and cracked. The famine pressed even into Canaan, where my father and brothers dwelt. One day, word reached me. Men from Canaan had come to Egypt to buy food. My heart trembled. Could it be them? Could it be the brothers who once sold me, now standing in need before me? And when they came into my hall, they bowed low before me, faces to the ground. My breath caught in my chest. The dream. The dream I once shared in innocence, mocked and hated, now unfolding before my eyes. I recognized them instantly. But they did not know me. I was robed in Egyptian linen, adorned with Pharaoh's signet, speaking their tongue through interpreters. To them, I was Zaphanath-Paneah, ruler of Egypt. To me, they were still my brothers. I spoke harshly, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." Genesis 42:9. They pleaded, "We are 12 brothers. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more." Their words pierced me. One is no more. In their eyes, I was dead. I tested them. I kept Simeon bound before their eyes and sent the rest home with grain, demanding they return with Benjamin, my youngest brother, the son of Rachel. My heart longed to see him. When they returned, Benjamin was with them. My eyes fell on him, and I nearly wept. He was grown, but the face of my mother lived in his eyes. I arranged a feast, seating them by birth order, sending Benjamin 5 times more than the rest. I watched, searching for envy, for hatred, but saw none. Still, I tested them once more. I placed my silver cup in Benjamin's sack and sent them on their way. Then I had them brought back, accused of theft. Their faces fell in terror. And Judah, who once said, "Let us sell him for silver," now stepped forward. His voice shook as he said, "Now therefore, please, let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that would find my father." Genesis 44:33-34. The same Judah who sold me now offering himself as a ransom for my brother. I could no longer restrain myself. I sent the Egyptians out, and I wept aloud, so loud that even Pharaoh's household heard it. Through my tears I said, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? Genesis 45:3. Terror fell upon my brothers. They could not speak, for guilt gripped their hearts. But I drew them near and said, Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. Genesis 45:5-8. I embraced Benjamin, and we wept. Then I kissed each of my brothers. And for the first time in years, we spoke together as family again. When word reached my father Jacob that I was alive, he refused to believe it. But when he saw the wagons sent from Egypt, his spirit revived. And when at last I fell upon his neck, years of sorrow melted away. He said, Now let me die, since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive. Genesis 46:30. That day I learned, forgiveness is greater than vengeance. Love is stronger than betrayal. And what men intend for evil, God weaves for good. When my father Jacob died, grief swept over our household like a storm. We carried him to Canaan, as he had commanded, and laid him in the cave of Machpelah, the resting place of Abraham and Isaac. But after the burial, I saw the fear in my brothers' eyes. Whispers passed among them. They said, It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him. Genesis 50:15. Even after years of kindness, after I had given them grain, land, and life itself, they still wondered if vengeance burned in my heart, waiting for the moment my father was gone. Then they came to me, their faces low to the ground, their voices trembling. They said, Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, Please forgive the transgression of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. Genesis 50:16-17. And they fell before me, saying, Behold, we are your servants. When I heard their words, I wept. I wept because their guilt still chained them, though I had already set them free. I wept because they still saw me as a victim with power to punish, not as a brother with grace to forgive. I lifted them up and said, Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones. Genesis 50:19-21. And I spoke kindly to them, not as slaves, not as enemies, but as brothers. Looking back now, I see the hand of God in every shadow, in every chain, in every tear. The pit, the silver, the prison, all of it led me here, to this moment of mercy. I want to confess to you, forgiveness is not weakness. Forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is trusting that God is judge, and I am not. My life began as a dreamer. I was betrayed, enslaved, and broken. Yet God raised me, not to wield vengeance, but to preserve life. And if He could turn betrayal into blessing, He can turn your pain into purpose. What man meant for evil, God will always mean for good. My name is Joseph. I was betrayed, enslaved, forgotten, and broken. Yet through it all, God was weaving a story far greater than my pain. Faith is not seeing the path. Faith is trusting the God who works all things for good. So I say to you, whatever pit you are in, whatever chains bind you, whatever betrayal haunts you, the Lord is with you, and He will lift you in His time. Because what man means for evil, God means for good.
If you found meaning in these stories, don't forget to share them with others and subscribe to the channel. Your support is highly appreciated. Thank you. Hit the notification button